Now, if that has changed dramatically, there should be no reason why over a longer period of time, we should not be able to cover up for that. Initially, yes, subsidy would be the way out, but over a long period of time, I don't think that should get taken care of. Secondly, we have spoken about power generation, and clearly for us, that is the way out, because we cannot continue to depend on buying power at a higher rate from outside.
Absolutely.
So that some bit of efficiency has to be built in power generation within Delhi. On the other bit, which you spoke about water.
Let me on water phrase the question, then you answer it. Let me phrase the question, then you answer it. And the question very critically on water is the question about the 40% that is lost through faulty distribution. It's the leakages in the system, and as you heard the former cabinet secretary say, subsidization of free water will actually enhance leakages, enhance wastage as well, which is separate to leakage. How do you address those concerns in a city where, in fact, you have a water shortage of 24%? You're devising a solution that will A, increase leakage, and B, possibly encourage wastage.
So there are two parts to it. The first part is about lifeline water. So we are of the view clearly that 700 liters of water needs to be provided, which is like a lifeline. And beyond that, if the usage is 701 liters, then the consumer is billed for the entire amount. So that is the first part to it. Secondly, leakages need to be corrected. There are flaws in the system which the Jal Board is going to work upon as soon as we form the government, and that's among the first priorities of the Delhi government. Secondly, a lot of water, the water has two aspects to it. One is the water which we receive in a household. The other is the water which is discharged. There needs to be a mechanism of overhaul for the entire water which is discharged. And STPs need to start functioning again, and new STPs need to be created, so that the water supply is whatever can be saved is saved. Apart from that, there is a High Court judgment on regard for water coming in from the Haryana government, from the Munak Canal, which we are very sure has to be adhered to by the government of Haryana.
Well, yes, so absolutely. The problem is the government of Haryana may not listen to you, and the government of Haryana could also act against your interests because you defeated their sisters and brothers, the BJP in the city. But you're right. This is a bigger, wider problem.
We understand.
This is a bigger, wider problem that needs addressing. Let me take a break at that point.
The land will have to.
Can the Aam Aadmi Party deliver on its enticing manifesto promises, or have they promised more than they can deliver? Let's come, Mrs. Chandra, to the infrastructure promises the Aam Aadmi Party has made. They've promised to put up perhaps as many as 1.5 million CCTV cameras, construct 2 lakh toilets, 500 government schools, 20 degree colleges, 900 primary health centers, and create 30,000 additional beds in government. Now, as you pointed out in your article in the Indian Express, already half the budget is spent on salaries and non-plan expenditure, and the other half is committed to things they can't get out of. So how are they going to fund all these different, very expensive infrastructure projects?
Well, to start with, the budget will continue with whatever is already there. Whole lot of schools, whole lot of dispensaries are already part of the budget. So they will simply say that that is what we are doing anyhow.
But that's a bit of sleight of hand.
But that is what every government does. Nobody really...
But you're saying, therefore, the solution to the fact they don't have funds is to claim what's already budgeted is something new and that they're doing, and hoping that the public won't know this is money that is already allocated for projects already decided on.
Every government does that, and they will also do it. What worries me more is the fact that they do not have the authority or the power to raise resources. They cannot levy a cess. From where are they going to get the additional funding if they have gone and promised reduction of VAT?
Well, absolutely. That is the question I want to put, in fact, to Dipankar Gupta. Dipankar Gupta, at the same time as needing substantial funds for toilets, schools, colleges, hospitals, Aam Aadmi has also promised to reduce VAT. Now, VAT accounts for 67% of Delhi government revenue. So aren't they in the peculiar position of committing themselves to projects that require increased expenditure at the same time as committing themselves to reducing VAT, which ensures government revenue will come down?
Yeah, that's the contradiction to my mind. And I think that these are the issues that they need to sort out, because in most manifestos you see are a combination of will do, must do, can do, wish I could do things. Therefore, one has to see how they prioritize it. But this business about reducing VAT is, I think, quite negative and suicidal, in fact, because what they need more than anything else is the ability to raise funds for themselves to be able to fulfill some of the things that they've been talking about. So one other way they could do it is to have progressive water and electricity taxation. That is beyond a certain amount, you have to pay more than what other people do. So these are the ways by which they could raise money for themselves, and that is very, very important for them.
Okay.
So to take away a source of funding which is legitimately theirs, I think is incorrect. What should be done is, how can we use all of that in a better fashion?
Siddharth Varadarajan, in an interview yesterday to this program, Yogendra Yadav said that if VAT rates are reduced, revenue from VAT would substantially increase, and that is, as you know, well-established liberal economic theory. Whether it's proven or not is questionable, but that is the argument that he presented. And he added that the increased revenue by reducing VAT would provide sufficient funds for the schools, colleges, toilets, hospitals. Do you agree with that economic reasoning, or do you question it?
Well, it all depends on the attitude of the trader community and the shopkeepers whom the Aam Aadmi Party very seriously wooed during this election. In principle, cutting a tax rate is one way to generate increased tax revenues. I've heard Arun Jaitley use the same logic in justifying, in a way, corporate tax and some of these things, taking a more liberal attitude. So that part is fine, but whether this would generate the kind of sums needed for some of these really huge promises, I mean, colleges, I think toilets, they're various things that they could probably appeal to central funding for. But a lot of the other infrastructure would require serious bucks.
So you
and
have
I'm not sure that
doubts.
this is going to come from VAT collections alone.
So you have serious doubts, and I can see you, Mr. Subramaniam, nodding. Do you also doubt Yogendra Yadav's logic?
Marginally, but I don't think the kind of money required for this kind of expansion can come through reduction in VAT rates, number one. Does Yogendra Yadav's logic also mean that he is stopping himself from asking for funds from Government of India, and it is all going to be raised by internal resources to reduction of VAT? But to cut into your schoolmaster rhythm, one quick point: in nearly every index we talked about, electricity, water, school, roads, etc., Delhi is by far higher than national average. Delhi is by far higher than most cities of India.
So what's the point you're making?
The point is, why are we discussing it, that particular one? We should discuss this in the context of India.
Well, no, just a moment. We're discussing it because I'm not going to let you derail the discussion. Forgive me. Mr. Van, please. We're talking about the Aam Aadmi Party's capacity and ability to deliver on their promises for Delhi. Let's stick to that. Otherwise, we won't have a discussion that has a focus. I want to put to you, Adarsh Sastry, what Yogendra Yadav said additionally last night to this program. He said that if there wasn't a substantial increase in revenue as a result of reducing VAT, and you've heard Mr. Subramaniam say that he doesn't think there will be anything like the required increase in revenue. Siddharth Varadarajan was probably saying the same thing as well. So there are two people who believe there won't be that increase. And Yogendra Yadav said if that increase doesn't happen, Aam Aadmi will revise its plans. Now, I put it to you that may be a very realistic thing to say, but it also suggests that you're not really committed to these promises.
So, well, two parts to your answer. First is that earlier you mentioned that schools and colleges which are part of the planned outlay, at no point of time have we said that schools and colleges which will be opened will all come out from fresh budget or fresh revenues. The point is that existing revenues, existing budget allocations have never been utilized efficiently. So we have always maintained that some of that schools and colleges will open from efficient utilization of the planned outlays and planned revenues. That is number one. Number two, very clearly for us, there is clear success stories behind VAT rates reducing leading to increase in revenues, and this has been historically economically demonstrated by the finance ministers successively over the Government of India over the last 10-15 years. Case in point would be, just to give you a small example, the mobile phone industry, the VAT rates at that time, sales tax rate used to be 16%, and they were reduced to the floor rate of 4%, a reduction of 12%, which led to the doubling of sales tax revenues across states of more than 10 times. So, clearly there is a historical evidence that reduction in VAT will ensure increase and make Delhi a larger trading and wholesale hub, and that is a key point of our manifesto, that Delhi should become a trading and wholesale hub. I will give you another example.
No, don't give me more examples, because I think you've made your point very substantially. You hope to be able to use resources already in the budget more effectively and efficiently. That will give you a surplus for a lot that you want to do, and you are using one very good example about mobile phones to suggest that in fact reduction of VAT leads to a substantial increase in sales and therefore in revenue. Let's assume you're right. Let's assume you're right. But there is something else that they've also committed themselves to. They're going to fill 55,000 vacancies in the Delhi government. They're going to regularize 4,000 doctors and 15,000 nurses and paramedics and all Safai Karmachari. Now that's going to add fairly sufficiently to the salary burden in the budget.
Salary as well as dearness allowance as well as pension.
So a lot of the efficient use of budget allocated money could actually go into salaries for these people. And a lot of the increase in revenue from VAT could also go here. Once again, have they got too many commitments to too many people, both in terms of infrastructure as well as in terms of salary? That means that they may not be able to fulfill both, at least to the level they claim they want to.
But these were clearly the constituencies to whom they were pandering. And these were government servants who have been sitting on contract appointments and who have been knocking at the doors for regularization. So your heart bleeds for them, and I would also subscribe that you can't keep people like this hanging forever. But at the same time, I don't think they've thought through the economic cost of doing this and where the money is going to come from.
Are you saying in a nutshell that for very good, probably very honorable reasons, they've promised a lot to a lot of people?
Yes.
As politicians do.
Yes.
But when it comes to fulfilling it, they may not have A, the money, and B, there's the Modi obstacle in terms of things like Swaraj and Lokpal. Both of those are problems they have to contend with.
No, they'll have to contend with those problems. And what is really worrisome is that they have embarked upon giving a promise which people today really expect wo kar denge, because there is a feeling that in 49 days it is true. Every scooter wala thinks that corruption stopped.
That's the real problem. Dipankar Gupta, they've given promises, and now they've as a result achieved a scale of victory that is so enormous that, as Mrs. Chandra said, people believe kar denge. But as we've now discussed, there are many things that cannot be done unless Mr. Modi helps, and Adarsh Shastri was very good to agree with that, that if Mr. Modi says no, those things won't happen. And there are others where revenue could be a constraint, although I bear in mind how Adarsh Shastri says they'll raise that revenue. But if he isn't successful, then revenue is a problem. Now, with expectations so sky high, is Aam Aadmi likely to disappoint people rather than bring a smile to them?
Well, when expectations go high, naturally there'll be some who will be disappointed. But I think what Aam Aadmi Party is really working at is that in a steady state, how can things be optimized? And I think there's a lot of scope for that, because I can see a lot of waste happening at various places, also unused funds, and just putting them to work would earn Aam Aadmi Party a lot of gratitude from many people. And yes, they will not be able to fulfill many of their promises, but that's what manifestos are made of, and nobody takes them very seriously. As far as the ordinary voter who pumped for Aam Aadmi Party, even during the bad days of Aam Aadmi Party, they'd be very, very happy if Aam Aadmi Party can return those 49 days to them over a 5-year spell.
All right.
That is what they're really looking for.
Let me stop you there. I want to give Siddharth Varadarajan a chance on that same point very quickly, Siddharth, but you have to literally give me an answer in 20 seconds. Do you think people in Delhi, after this huge victory, are prepared that maybe everything promised won't be delivered? Or will they be hugely disappointed? Remember, Mr. Modi, in 8 months, having promised the earth, collapsed in Delhi. He won all 7 seats in May, and he won just 3 out of 70 in this week. So, will Aam Aadmi be more understanding?
I think it's not the gap between promise and delivery, but the way in which elected representatives conduct themselves and how what kind of a dialogue they have with the electorate. I think Mr. Modi's style of functioning is strictly one-way communication, and that has been perceived wrongly by people in Delhi. I think the Aam Aadmi Party's forte is to have a continuous dialogue with the electorate, and I think as long as he takes the public into confidence about difficulties that have come in their way because of, the central government's attitude, people may be understanding.
You're making a good point. You're saying it all depends upon how Aam Aadmi conducts itself. Do you agree conduct could make the difference?
I broadly agree. I feel that even if some substantial part of promises is met, it can be done. And lastly, they achieved a minor miracle last week. Don't discount them. If they count on efficiency gains, they will not work.
Very quickly, Adarsh, I want to give you the last word because in a sense you're the man at the center of this discussion. Do you accept that at the end of the day how you're viewed and how your delivery is seen and recognized depends upon the conduct of your people? But 10 seconds is all I've got. Is conduct the key?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. I would only say that 80% of people of Delhi are not interested in the bullet train, are not interested in Ramzadeh. They are interested in their livelihood. They are interested in getting free from corruption, sewage, roads, and that is what we are going to deliver.
Okay, and let that be the last word on this show. My thanks to all my guests for joining me. Remember, the Aam Aadmi Party government is sworn in tomorrow morning, and the countdown will then begin, and we can very quickly thereafter judge if they're delivering, how quickly they're delivering, and how much they're delivering. But for me, for tonight, goodbye.